Hey all, happy Wednesday, day 100 of ETFs. I can't believe I've been analyzing these things for 100 days and it's gone so fast. Crazy things are happening. We'll talk about some new records today. By the way, does anybody know the album 10,000 Days? Well, I wonder, will we be here in 10,000 days? Anyway, a little bit of, what do they call that? Trivia. Let's go. Crypto market cap 2.7 trillion. Massive volume, nearly 100 billion. Fear and greed, 75. Bitcoin hit 71,800. It did break that glass. It's now about 71,000. It did come back a little bit. We're going to talk about cuts, struggles, shocking flows, a lot of good news. And the question is it time? Let's go. And thank you as well to the mods in the chat and Adam Q and anybody I missed as well. All right, let's get the show on the road. And this is not financial advice, of course. And shout out to Patreon who make all this possible. From Brian Manchester. Very glad I joined your Patreon. Well, thank you, Brian Manchester. I wonder, are you in Manchester and a soccer fan? That would be funny. Let's look at the monthly returns. Bitcoin is up 6.2% already in June. We're only 5 days in. Super interesting. And of course, 11.5% in May after the red April. Now, a little bit of news, and I have a lot of charts to show you. Let's get through the news first. First of all, as of a few minutes ago, we were 2.9% from all-time highs. That is literally within sniffing distance, not striking distance, sniffing distance. It's super close, and it's only a matter of time before we break a new all-time high. And we'll break down some charts as well, what'll happen if that does happen. Also, we had, from you today, Bitcoin ETFs record shockingly high inflows. This is not what people expected unless you watch this channel. I did talk about the turning point of a big pension fund in the US allocating to Bitcoin in Wisconsin that turned heads. That caused, I wouldn't call it institutional FOMO, but definitely pension fund FOMO. Everybody needs a piece of this thing as we go forward. Mr. Tao, Mr. Tu, thank you so much. Now, it's always quietest before the storm, and people were bored. People were waiting for something to happen, and this chart sums it all up. Come on, do something. And then, all of a sudden, it does. Now, it's always the same way. It's kind of funny. Let's talk about some other good news. Jack Mollers, this is from Bitcoin Magazine. He, Just In Strike CEO, says Bitcoin is the biggest wealth transfer in modern human history, and it will save many people. It already has. And this is the life raft. I shared a post on Patreon earlier this morning regarding how the rich get richer. This is a way to help others get richer too. Again, being in early, being in hard has never mattered more in the world. Also, there's a little bit of pain, as expected, with the Bitcoin miners that are out there. The post-halving sting, as I say, has arrived. And miners reveal falling production in their June statement, June 4th, June 5th. CleanSpark reported a 42% decline in Bitcoin production from 721 Bitcoin down to 417. And despite this drop, they have outperformed industry expectations. I think Riot as well just got onto a poop list from some shorter. They had a 43% month-on-month decline from, about 415 down to about 215 Bitcoin. I can't remember the exact numbers. I did the post earlier. Anyway, they are feeling the pain, and this is expected. This is part of exactly what happens at the halving. It's a time to reflect and figure out exactly what's going to happen next. And we saw, because of high fees, etc., the miners weren't hurt that much, but now the impact of the halving is really taking effect. Wait till you see some of the charts I show you as well in a little while regarding the miners, and we'll talk more about those too. Also, a Japanese firm called DMM was hacked for about $300 million. They will compensate users by buying all of the Bitcoin back. I calculate that to be about 4,600 Bitcoin to compensate users affected by last week's hack. And I don't know why they have such a poster in Japan, but anyway, that's from Bitcoin News. And also, and shout out to DMM as well for making people whole. Well done. Next, this is also a little bit of macro news, which is important to us all. Just in, Bank of Canada cuts policy rate by 25 basis points. And so it begins. It's not a lot, But European Central Bank is next. And then it will become not only a race to jack rates, but also a race to reduce them, which will help risk assets too. Now, let's get into the fun charts. Lots to show today. And Bitcoin Only playlist will be here afterwards. For those who are only interested in Bitcoin Only content, I've got playlists for everything, including personality types and you name it. Anyway, tapping glass was yesterday's video. We did tap that glass, was third time a charm to break the 70K level and put it behind us. We shall see. It looks pretty good considering what is happening, and Bitcoin is at 71,000. It's holding above that 70K level that we struggled with breaking for the longest time. And literally, just from observing stuff and remembering everything, that's like tapping that glass the third time, it just shatters and we make it through. So we'll see if it does hold. No guarantees it will, but there is some very telling evidence that suggests it might. And again, thank you, Sean Donnelly, TNT Tesla, and KH for being here, keeping us all safe. Let's check out our top and bottom indicator that we built in the bear. We are still in the yellow zone. So a lot of people think, oh, it's topping out and Bitcoin's going to go into a bear market now. It's like, nope, it's not. Not at all. We're not even orange, dark orange, never mind red. We have a long way to go. So everybody, do not fret right now. Also, another indicator, which is actually part of all of the indicators in this is Thermo Cap. This is from the team at Crypto Quant. Bitcoin is not currently overvalued. In fact, it's far from it based on network fundamentals. Thermo Cap is the cumulative value of all Bitcoin mined so far, and it represents the total investment cost in the network. And a high Thermo Cap means stronger network fundamentals. It also means we get closer to the top. And again, you can see here from this purple line, we are very, very far from the top. That's from Crypto Quant CEO Ki-Young Ju. So thank you for all the great work that you do. Next, I was playing around last night with numbers, and I decided to, because I calculate, I have a record of all the price data for every single day for Bitcoin, and I can extract any days I want. I decided, what was the Bitcoin price on the 4th of June every year for the last decade? And here we go. So let me walk you through this chart real quick. I just thought it was fascinating to look at. And there's a couple of hidden messages in here too. First of all, blue is the closing price at the end of every day on the 4th of June every year, going back to 2015. Excuse me. And in red are the percentage returns year over year. So 2016 versus 2015, 151.29% return. And then 2017 over 2016, 345% return, and on and on. What's really interesting to see is so far this year in 2024, we are doing really, really well. But also what's important to note, even though bear markets can be very painful and brutal, when you look at a certain point of time, like the 4th of June every single year, the actual drawdowns year to year are actually quite small. And this illustrates the point as well. Don't get too cute with profit taking. It's better to be on the bus than not. And especially when you look at the period 2016, 2017, 2018, up until the very end, it was good. Skipping stones, thank you for coming as well. So again, a lot to be taken from this. The overall trend is up. Yes, bear markets can be painful, but the average return on investment every year for the last 10 years, year over year, average and compounded, is 125%. There's not many assets to do that as well. Let's talk about where we are with the ETFs too. 16 straight positive days. $3.2 billion in the kitty. That is absolutely huge. It's astounding. But what's even more astounding is how we nearly got $1 billion in yesterday alone. It's crazy. I always say risk happens fast. And yes, it's not fully reflected in the price because of things like market makers and OTC desks that I've covered in many videos as to why it gets smoothened out. That's how markets work. But eventually, things are getting tight out there. We'll talk about that in a second too. Now, we are now, I always talk about the 90-day consolidation kind of at and around the halving. We are nearly finished. And this chart here indicates that. It's from Bitcoin Archive. It it shows you that we are 84 days since the last all-time high. By the way, the last all-time high was March 14th, 2024. We're getting to that 90-day tipping point. That's when things really take off. If history repeats, okay? Remember, if history repeats. Also, another view of where we are so far. I love having the perspective. It looks like one of those gun sight targets. The halving date line is the red vertical line here. That's when the Bitcoin halving happened back in April. And the all-time high is the line across the top. And that's how far we are away. 2.9% from that all-time high, which is not very far at all. It's only a matter of time before we get through it. And you'll see that we did spike to the all-time high back in March. But March was a very different situation. And I did a video last week of how 70K in March is radically different from 70K in May. And now we're already in June. So it's only a matter of time. Let's talk about a little bit of TA. For those of you who love Head and Shoulders patterns, excuse my very crude art, but this technically would begin to look like one. And typically with a Head and Shoulders pattern, you got the left shoulder on the left, you got the head in the middle, and then right shoulder, which hasn't fully formed yet. The right shoulder will be complete when we break out through the all-time high, and that is a classic Head and Shoulders pattern. For those of you who are old enough to remember that shampoo. So we'll see if this holds, but this is setting out to be, if you are a hardcore TA Head and Shoulders shampooer, you'll see what's going to happen next. Also, the best part is yet to come. This is from AO. He changed his name on Twitter. It's Aurelian Ohion is now AO on X, but his basically mapping the 2014 to 2017 cycle. Because remember, last cycle was manipulated, didn't tell the full truth. This cycle is much more in line with that 2014 to 2017 cycle. And therefore, we are still very early. The best part is yet to come. And things are getting harder and scarcer than ever before. And I'm still stunned that day 100 of the ETFs had nearly $1 billion flow in. We'll talk about that in a minute too. And Franklin Templeton supporting my thesis that we are still in very early days. She was on TV on CNBC. And her name was Jenny, if I'm not mistaken. She's the CEO of Franklin Templeton. And she said, ETF adoption, this is really the first wave of early adopters. The next wave is the much bigger institutions. Okay? Super early. Okay? We are early. We had $1 billion coming into the ETFs in one day. And she says a lot more is coming. It's gonna very exciting time ahead. Also, this shows you exactly how much came in yesterday. We had, I think it was day 41 or day 42. Day 41, I believe, we had the highest flow ever, just over $1 billion, and we had nearly 900 million yesterday. In fact, if you believe in Chinese lucky numbers, it was 888 million to be on the nose. And this is the second biggest day of inflows since launching. And remember, wave one of the ETF inflows took Bitcoin from 37,000 to 73,000. I'll repeat that. 37 to 73. Easy to remember. Just flip the numbers around. Wave 2 is coming. It's just getting started. And $100,000 is on the way. Given the data is not wrong. Market actions can be different. And a lot of people believe, again from Bitcoin Archive, the candle to $100,000 Bitcoin price is loading, ladies and gentlemen. So please put on your moon boots. Hope you have them ready and strap on. It's going to be fun. Also, from AO, one more time. He believes if history repeats, the cycle works in 500 days. We are just entering into the big green 500-day part of this bull run. The post-halving run is always bigger than the pre-halving run. I've said for the 1,000th time. Okay? The vertical lines, the green boxes are the post-halving runs. We get a quiet period of 30 to 60, sometimes 90 days of quietness after the halving to see what's happening with the miners and everything else. And after that, things get really scarce, really fast. Just like I showed you how the miners are now down 43% in production. Okay. It takes about 45, 50 days for the miners to feel the pain of the halving. That just kicked in. Now, over the next 45 days, the scarcity of Bitcoin will kick in. It's going to be harder than ever to get your hands on a big bag of Bitcoin. Very hard. Now, in addition, we have people who are short at 72,000. This is CoinGlass, and they indicate substantial short positions on Bitcoin USDT pair on Binance, with many billions of dollars of liquidation above 71,000. The majority of this leverage is concentrated around 72,000, just below the all-time high of 73,600. And this positioning suggests the potential for rapid market movements up if these levels are breached. No shorts and very little sell wall and a lot of scarcity. Another view of the 72K is here. The lighter it gets, the more shorts there are. 72,000 is where things will rip. The question is, what will the ETFs do today? If they have another big day, they'll get ripped in the next 24 to 48 hours. That's just a fact of life. Also, regarding the hardness that I spoke about, regarding the miners and the period after the halving, this is again from the top and bottom indicator. The Bitcoin miner supply is at an all-time low, ladies and gentlemen. In over 14 years, it's never been so low. The miners are selling as much as they can to buy as many modern rigs as they can so they can survive. They're selling. The strongest miners are holding. Everybody else is cashing in their chips immediately and buying rigs to try keep up and expand their hash. If they can't, they issue a lot of shares. If they can't do that, they get debt. Okay? This is a cutthroat business, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely brutal business. Gold mining is far safer than Bitcoin mining. So be careful out there. But this is good for the space because they no longer have many bags to sell. Again, record low. We've never seen this in the history of Bitcoin. Exciting time. Now, I will be doing a lot of news as well with the huge shakeup in miner production. I've got this new video series. People ask, I want more miner videos. So I'm going to try pump one out once a week and give you a quick update on all the models, all the status, all the charts, and what the shakeup is like with these miners, because there's never been a more important time when the actual production goes down by 40, 50% in a couple of weeks. It's going to have a huge impact. Fortunately, the break-even cost per miner to mine a Bitcoin is about 50 to 60,000, depending on the miner. Some are much higher than that. So many will still make it, but some are going to be on the threshold. And there's other miners, again, with that big Bitcoin bag that will be able to expand their hash very cheaply by acquiring those miners in distress. So watch for that. If you're not interested in miner videos, let me know. But this is the new minority report. Hope I said that right. Let's talk about the Bitcoin black hole, because this was a bonkers day 100. Again, I can't believe I've been looking at this stuff for 100 days and I'm not bored yet. Amazing. Here are the actual deltas, the total bags of all the US ETF funds, the 10 of them. You can see very clearly the total is north of 850,000 Bitcoin. IBIT is the biggest player. Grayscale is number 2. Fidelity is number 3. I reckon in the next 3 to 6 months, Fidelity will become number 2 probably. ARK is there, so is Bitwise. And then the rest are kind of crumbs. But the really crazy thing is day 100 raw numbers. Again, huge amount of action. These ETFs took in $3.2 billion over the last 16 days. $3.2 billion. That is a quarter of what they've taken in over the 100 days. Okay, big, big, big numbers. Everybody is stacking. And people sometimes think $1 billion is nothing. But imagine retail investors. I love this graphic because it shows you how much $1 billion is. And we took in 3.2 billion of these big stacks at the bottom in the last 16 days. These are $100 bills, by the way. That's how big $10,000 is. And when you have a stack of $10,000 in your hand, it is quite hefty. It's not something to be sniffed at. Then you have $100 million at the man's feet up on the right-hand corner, and then $1 billion. Okay? We had nearly all of that money come into Bitcoin yesterday. Okay. Where did it come from? Not from retail investors. It came from the pension funds that are allocating right now. And it's become an arms race to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible, because people know where this thing is going. Now let's look at the macro update. Even though it's nothing like the spike we had from BlackRock back in day 41, which is all driven by BlackRock. They had, I think, a $900 million day standalone, while nobody else is doing anything. Also, it corresponded completely to the previous dump from Grayscale. Now we have all of the ETFs firing, all positive, all at the same time. And that's why it stacks up. And that's what we like to see too. You don't want to have too much concentration in one ETF, but it's like an engine. You want all cylinders firing at the same time. And that's what happened yesterday. Let's look at the 16 positive days. You can see that massive spike, only second to the one on day 41. We are day 100. Day 100, nearly $1 billion in, which is super exciting. $888 million to be precise. I rounded up to $890 million. And day 100, and you can see that big spike. And what's really important to know as well is the Bitcoin holdings, the day 100 status. 326,000 Bitcoin left Grayscale. On top of that, the ETFs, the net new ETFs, took in another 260,000. So this is massive, massive transfers. I have this new chart too, which is super important to show. It shows you that in the 10 ETFs now, there's 870,042 Bitcoin. This is what I believe to be 7.2% of all Bitcoin in the ETFs, in just the US ETFs. Okay, there's 1.02 million Bitcoin in all global ETFs. And there's more ETFs coming every day. Thailand will launch soon. Australia launched this week. Britain launched last week. Again, more are coming. And this is all based on my 14 million max Bitcoin supply, because Satoshi is 1.04 million we'll probably never see again, and over 4 million are lost. Therefore, I believe, and I've always held since 2021, and I've been counting the amount of losses for years and years, is basically 5 million gone. Okay, the fact that these ETFs are new to the party and now own 7.2% of the supply is pretty stunning. And I know it'll cause some maxis some consternation. But again, just look at the amount of money that these things bring in. It is pretty stunning. Let's look at the amount of Bitcoin pulled from the system. Another stunning statistic. Okay, we saw CleanSpark go from 721 Bitcoin down to 420 Bitcoin month over month, the delta. All right, this thing is getting scarce. We have not seen the impact of scarcity on price yet. The laws of economics apply to Bitcoin more than anything else. Okay, we had, I'll repeat this slowly, 12,568 Bitcoin pulled from the system. I estimated yesterday about 7,000 when I tweeted it, based on Grayscale being positive. It's more than 7,000. It's nearly 13,000. This is 28 days of miner issuance gone in one day. 28 days, poof, gone. What's also important from this, you can see here, from a blue candle of Bitcoin taken from the system, it is not the second highest. It's the fourth highest. Okay, because again, we began this at 37,000. So your $1 billion doesn't go as far anymore when you're buying Bitcoin when it's at $70,000. And that's just the reality. Again, crazy, crazy numbers. Grayscale had a positive day yesterday, 28 million. Woohoo for Grayscale. Maybe the bleed has begun. The trend line is close to zero now. That's the pink, purple, whatever you want to call it. And finally, everybody, as Bruce Buffer says, it's time. And I think it is time for this bull run to start in earnest. Not that we haven't been completely bullish the whole time, but now the next level kicks in. As Jenny said, just to remind you all, and she knows, okay? She sees the money. She is in touch with these pension funds. I'll repeat it one more time because it's too important. The next wave is much bigger. The first wave was people putting their toe in the water. Next wave is people jumping into the lake and making big splashes. All right. So Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you enjoy the show. Hit the like if you do, and you'll see other content like this. And you'll also see the type of content that I watch on YouTube, which will surprise you as well. That's not what you think. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the mods in the chat. Hope you enjoy the show. Day 100 in the bag. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.